50 surprising and little-known facts about Lady Diana. Lady Diana Spencer remains one of the most captivating and complex figures of late 20th century British royalty, a young aristocrat whose grace, vulnerability, and public trials made her beloved worldwide yet deeply misunderstood. Best known today as the Princess of Wales and mother to Princes William and Harry, Diana embodied the glamour, tragedy, and contradictions of her time. In this video, we reveal 50 facts about the life of Lady Diana, an enduring icon whose legacy continues to fascinate and inspire. You're watching Cultured Elegance. Be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Diana Frances Spencer was born on July 1st, 1961, not in a hospital, but in the quiet seclusion of Park House, a sprawling red-brick Edwardian mansion on the Sandringham estate in Norfolk. This was no ordinary country home. It sat just a few miles from Sandringham House itself, the royal family's private holiday retreat, where generations of monarchs had gathered for Christmas since the reign of Edward VII. Park House had been built as an overflow residence for the future King Edward VII, then Prince of Wales, who loved to entertain on a grand scale, but often found the main Sandringham house too cramped for the sheer volume of guests he invited. By the time of Diana's birth, it was a 10-bedroom house with sweeping lawns, stables, and views across the windswept Norfolk countryside, a setting both aristocratic and isolated. In 1938, King George V had leased Park House to his close friend Edmund Roche, the 4th Baron Fermoy, Diana's maternal grandfather. It was here that her mother, Frances Roche, was born, and where Frances would later return as a young wife after marrying Viscount Althorp, John Spencer. Lord Fermoy transferred the lease to the young couple, and the house became the childhood home of the Spencer children until 1975, when John Spencer inherited the title of 8th Earl Spencer and moved the family to Althorp, their ancestral seat. At birth, Diana was entitled to the style the Honourable, a courtesy extended to children of viscounts, barons, and younger sons of earls. Her father was still Viscount Althorp in 1961, and her mother, herself the daughter of a baron, also carried the same honorific. Yet in the Spencer household, her arrival caused a quiet ripple of disappointment. Her father, who longed for a male heir to inherit the title and estate, already had 2 daughters. Diana would later recall, half in jest and half in hurt, "I was supposed to be the boy." The Spencer marriage was deeply troubled, and in 1967, when Diana was just 6, her parents separated, plunging their children into an unusually public custody battle. The courts awarded custody to John Spencer, partly because he held the title, and partly due to the unexpected intervention of Diana's maternal grandmother, Lady Fermoy, who sided against her own daughter. This rejection left a lasting scar on Diana, who grew up believing, with a child's logic, that her very gender had played a part in the collapse of her parents' marriage. That guilt, coupled with the pressures of an awkward, almost transactional courtship with the Prince of Wales, chipped away at her self-esteem. By the time she was engaged, she was already battling bulimia, binging and purging several times a day, a secret struggle that began before her royal wedding and would haunt her for years. Still, there were moments of warmth in her unconventional family. When her mother remarried to businessman Peter Shand Kidd, he affectionately called her Duchess. The nickname stuck, shortened to Dooch, and was used by her friends, siblings, and even her eldest sister, Lady Sarah McCorquodale, long after Diana became Princess of Wales. From the beginning, her life was shaped by the peculiar contradictions of aristocratic privilege. Born in a house leased by kings, raised in the shadow of a palace, and marked from childhood by both expectation and heartbreak. In 1975, Diana's life shifted dramatically. That year, her paternal grandfather, Albert Spencer, the 7th Earl Spencer of Althorp, died. Her father inherited not only the title of 8th Earl Spencer, but also the centuries-old Althorp estate in Northamptonshire, a 90-room, 13,000-acre ancestral seat filled with over 500 years of family history. The inheritance meant the end of the Spencer children's years at Park House. The family left Norfolk behind for Althorp's grand Georgian halls, where portraits of their forebears lined the walls, and the Spencer name carried the weight of one of England's most prominent aristocratic dynasties. By then, the Spencer household had already fractured. Diana's father had remarried. His new wife, Reine McCorquodale, the Countess of Dartmouth, was the daughter of novelist Barbara Cartland, and her taste for lavish decor would soon earn her the nickname Acid Reign among the Spencer children. With her father's elevation to an earldom, Diana and her sisters acquired the courtesy title Lady, while her younger brother Charles became Viscount Althorp, the heir apparent. Diana was particularly close to her older sister, Lady Sarah McCorquodale. The two shared a bond that endured even after Sarah famously introduced Diana to Prince Charles. Sarah would later serve, unofficially, as Diana's lady-in-waiting on many of her overseas tours, the sisterly loyalty remaining intact through triumph and turmoil alike. In 1978, the Earl sent Diana to the Institut Alpin Vidamanet in Rougemont, Switzerland, a finishing school for young women of Europe's aristocracy and royalty, covering subjects like art appreciation, social etiquette, French language, skiing, and cultural studies. But the Swiss mountain air and snow-covered chalets could not cure her homesickness. After just one term, Diana begged her father to let her come home. Upon her return to England, Diana resisted the idea of settling into Althorp. She disliked the atmosphere created by her stepmother, whose arrival had transformed the estate into something of a gilt and floral spectacle. At 18, she took her independence into her own hands, moving to London and buying a room at 60 Coleherne Court in Earl's Court, with money her mother had given her as a birthday gift. Coleherne Court, a red-brick Edwardian mansion block, became her first real home of her own, though she shared it with flatmates, Carolyn Bartholomew and Sophie Kimber.
Generous. Very generous. A very good friend.
Did she watch TV a lot? Did she have any favourite programmes?
Oh, God. Crossroads.
Did you share that like?
Unfortunately, yes.
Both would remain lifelong friends, and Carolyn, in particular, would stand beside her years later as a bridesmaid at her royal wedding. Diana once wished to become a ballerina. She trained in ballet during her youth, but at 5 feet 10 inches, she was considered too tall for a professional ballet career. She continued dancing privately. One of her most famous public moments was dancing with John Travolta at the White House during an official visit in the early years of her marriage. Life in London was modest but happy. Diana worked various jobs, babysitting, teaching ballet to young children, and assisting at a kindergarten.
I wanted to teach children, and they said, why not come along? So I first started off doing afternoons, and then I took over the mornings and did whole days. But I only worked 3 days a week.
While enjoying the freedom of the city. Her sister, Lady Sarah, in the late 1970s, briefly dated Prince Charles herself. The two remained friendly, and it was through Sarah that Diana first met the heir to the throne in November 1977 at Althorp, during a pheasant shoot. Diana, then just 16, later recalled the encounter as almost comically awkward. She teased the prince about how lonely he must have felt at the time following the death of his great-uncle and mentor, Lord Mountbatten. Charles, amused by her frankness, remembered her. They would not meet again for nearly 3 years. By the summer of 1980, Diana was living in London. Then, by chance, or perhaps by careful orchestration, her path crossed with Charles's once more at a mutual friend's country weekend. This time, the prince was no longer merely intrigued. he was actively seeking a suitable bride. The timing was significant. At 32, Charles was under increasing pressure from both the public and the palace to marry. Diana, 19, with aristocratic lineage, a photogenic face, and no prior romantic entanglements that might embarrass the crown, fit the unspoken checklist. What began as light social encounters soon evolved into invitations, weekends at Balmoral, sailing on the royal yacht, and dinners at Buckingham Palace. To Diana, the sudden attention from the prince was thrilling. Their courtship lacked the slow privacy of a typical romance. Instead, much of it played out against the backdrop of the royal family's constant scrutiny.
But I'm not going to say anything, please.
Right, but Prince Charles did give us a hint himself.
She would later admit that the whirlwind pace left little time to truly know one another.
Well, as you can see, you can tell.
Are you bearing up with it quite well, though? Because it must...
In February 1981, Prince Charles proposed to Lady Diana Spencer at Windsor Castle without an engagement ring. He told her he wanted to marry her, and she accepted. The next day, Gerard, the crown jeweler, presented a selection of rings for her to choose from. She selected a 12-carat oval Ceylon sapphire, surrounded by 14 solitaire diamonds, set in 18-carat white gold. The ring was part of Gerard's catalogue, and not custom-made. It cost £28,000 at the time. Diana wore the ring daily, including after her separation from Charles. Following her death in 1997, it was inherited by Prince Harry, who later gave it to Prince William in 2010. William used it to propose to Catherine Middleton, who wears it today. Before the wedding, Diana discovered a bracelet Charles had commissioned for Camilla Parker Bowles, engraved with the letters G and F, believed to stand for their nicknames for each other, Gladys and Fred. The gift caused a confrontation between Diana and Charles days before the wedding. During their engagement interview in February 1981, when asked if they were in love, Diana replied, "Of course," but Charles responded, "Whatever in love means."
And I suppose in love.
Of course.
Whatever in love means.
A remark that unsettled her and caused public speculation. In the weeks before the wedding, Diana's struggles with bulimia began, triggered by a comment Charles made about her figure. She later admitted to binging and purging several times a day during the engagement period. The wedding took place on July 29, 1981, at St. Paul's Cathedral in London. Around 60,000 spectators lined the route, and an estimated 750 million people watched the ceremony on television worldwide. Diana's wedding dress was designed by David and Elizabeth Emanuel. It was made of ivory silk taffeta and antique lace, decorated with hand embroidery, sequins, and pearls. It featured a 25-foot train, the longest train in royal wedding history. Diana wore the Spencer tiara, a family heirloom, instead of a tiara from the Queen's collection. On the wedding day, Diana accidentally reversed the order of Charles's names during her vows, saying Philip Charles Arthur George instead of Charles Philip Arthur George. She also omitted the traditional promise to obey, a decision agreed upon with the Archbishop of Canterbury. Several guests and journalists noted that Camilla Parker Bowles was present at the wedding, seated in a visible position in the congregation. During the honeymoon aboard the royal yacht Britannia, Diana found cufflinks Charles wore, engraved with 2 interlocking C's, which she believed stood for Charles and Camilla. She later described feeling emotionally isolated and depressed during the trip. In November 1981, Diana became pregnant with her first child. She experienced severe morning sickness that required hospital treatment. In June 1982, Diana gave birth to Prince William at St. Mary's Hospital, Paddington, becoming the first British royal to give birth in a hospital rather than a palace. During her early motherhood, Diana felt increasingly isolated. She later revealed she suffered from postpartum depression, which palace staff and Charles reportedly misunderstood or dismissed. In 1983, during their highly publicized royal tour of Australia and New Zealand, Diana insisted that her infant son, Prince William, accompany them, breaking with royal precedent, as royal children were rarely taken on overseas tours at such a young age. This decision was seen as a reflection of Diana's strong maternal instincts and her desire to maintain a close bond with her son. The tour was a significant public relations success, with Diana's warmth and charm captivating local populations and international audiences alike.
Jamie, he loves his koala bear he's got. But he hasn't got anything particular. He just likes something with a bit of noise. He got a plastic whale that throws things out the top, little balls.
She quickly became the focal point of media attention, often overshadowing Prince Charles during official engagements. Despite the outward appearances of harmony, tensions between Diana and Charles persisted privately. Charles was reportedly uncomfortable with the attention Diana received and the prominence she gained during the tour, while Diana felt isolated in her role and struggled with the pressures of royal life and motherhood. Darren McGrady, former personal chef to both Queen Elizabeth II and Diana, revealed that one of Diana's favorite dishes was an extra creamy bread pudding sprinkled with almond nuts. Diana often requested it for breakfast. McGrady noted that she enjoyed any dish with cream, while her sons, Princes William and Harry, preferred cottage pie. Unlike many members of the British royal family, including the Queen, Diana did not prefer tea. She drank coffee. Her former butler, Paul Burrell, wrote in a royal duty that he prepared coffee for her every morning. In September 1983, Diana announced her second pregnancy, confirming that she and Prince Charles were expecting another child. On September 15, 1984, Diana gave birth to her second son, Prince Henry Charles Albert David, known as Prince Harry, at St. Mary's Hospital, Paddington, the same hospital where Prince William was born. The birth was widely covered by the media and welcomed by the public, adding to Diana's growing popularity as a mother and member of the royal family. Lady Diana was widely regarded as a global fashion icon whose style evolved dramatically over the course of her life. Early in her marriage, she favored romantic princess-like dresses with puffed sleeves, floral prints, and soft colors, designs often created by Elizabeth and David Emanuel. As her public role matured, Diana's style shifted toward sleek, tailored silhouettes and bold evening gowns. She became known for mixing high fashion with accessible brands, favoring designers such as Catherine Walker, Versace, Armani, and Chanel. Catherine Walker was a longtime favorite who created many of Diana's most iconic outfits. Designers frequently praised Diana for her elegance and poise, noting her ability to carry complex designs with grace. Gianni Versace once called her the most beautiful woman in the world, and Karl Lagerfeld admired her for modernizing royal fashion without losing its dignity. By the mid-1980s, Diana became aware that Prince Charles had resumed his affair with Camilla Parker Bowles, a relationship that had begun years before their marriage. The knowledge of Charles's continuing involvement with Camilla deeply affected Diana, contributing to her growing emotional distress. In 1986, Diana began a relationship with Captain James Hewitt, a British Army cavalry officer. Their affair reportedly lasted several years, with Hewitt confirming the relationship publicly in later interviews. The timing and duration of the affair have been the subject of extensive media coverage and speculation. Despite the affair, Diana and Charles remained publicly committed to their marriage during this period, continuing official engagements together. However, their private relationship was increasingly strained and distant. Diana was known to start her day early, typically waking up around 7 a.m. each morning. Her daily routine often began with a cup of coffee, prepared by her staff, before she attended to her personal and official commitments. This early start allowed her to balance her busy schedule of royal duties, charity work, and time with her sons. She wore a gold Cartier watch for much of her adult life. The watch was a 21st birthday gift from her father, Earl Spencer, and was one of her most treasured possessions. Photographers captured Diana alone at the Taj Mahal during an official visit to India. The image was widely interpreted as symbolic of the breakdown of the marriage. In 1989, at a private birthday party for Camilla Parker Bowles' sister, Annabelle Elliott, Diana confronted Camilla directly about her ongoing affair with Prince Charles. The encounter was reportedly tense and emotional, marking one of the few times Diana addressed the situation face to face. Diana later described this confrontation as a pivotal moment in her marriage, acknowledging that it made her realize the depth of Charles's relationship with Camilla and the limited prospects for reconciliation. The revelation intensified her feelings of betrayal and contributed to the accelerating breakdown of their union. Following this period, Diana's public and private struggles became more pronounced, including increased media attention on the marital discord and her own health issues, such as bulimia and depression.
I've come to the conclusion that really it would have been far easier to have had two wives, to have covered both sides of the street.
By the early 1990s, Diana and Charles's separate lives became increasingly apparent to the public. In 1992, British press published excerpts from Andrew Morton's book, Diana, Her True Story, based on secretly recorded interviews with Diana, revealing her eating disorder, suicide attempts, and the extent of Charles's relationship with Camilla. In December, Prime Minister John Major announced to the House of Commons that the Prince and Princess of Wales had agreed to separate, though neither sought divorce at the time. The announcement followed months of intense tabloid coverage of their failing marriage. In June 1994, Charles admitted in a televised interview with Jonathan Dimbleby that he had been unfaithful to Diana after the marriage had irretrievably broken down.
Did you try to be faithful and honourable to your wife when you took on the vow of marriage?
Yes, absolutely.
And you were?
Yes. Until it became irretrievably broken down.
This was the first public confirmation of his affair with Camilla Parker Bowles. The day after Prince Charles admitted in a televised interview that he had been unfaithful during their marriage, Diana made a striking public appearance, wearing what became known as the revenge dress. The dress was a form-fitting, off-the-shoulder black silk gown designed by Christina Stambolian. It featured a daring neckline and was notably more provocative than Diana's usual style, signaling confidence and defiance. Diana wore the dress to a Serpentine Gallery dinner in London, where it immediately captured the media's attention and became an iconic symbol of her reclaiming control over her public image amid the marital scandal. The revenge dress remains one of the most memorable fashion moments of Diana's life and is often cited as an example of her complex relationship with the media and her own evolving persona. In November 1995, Diana gave a televised interview to Martin Bashir on BBC's Panorama. In it, she confirmed her own extramarital relationship with James Hewitt, spoke about her bulimia, and referred to Charles's affair with Camilla.
Do you think Mrs. Parker Bowles was a factor in the breakdown of your marriage?
Well, there were three of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded.
The Panorama interview caused a crisis within the monarchy. In December 1995, Queen Elizabeth II wrote to both Diana and Charles, advising them to divorce.
What were your feelings at the time?
Deep, profound sadness. 'Cause we'd We had struggled to keep it going, but obviously we both run out of steam.
On August 28, 1996, the divorce was finalized. Diana retained her apartments at Kensington Palace and the title Princess of Wales, but lost the style Her Royal Highness. She received a financial settlement reportedly worth around £17 million plus £400,000 annually. As part of the divorce agreement, Diana and Charles shared equal access to their sons, Princes William and Harry, splitting time between Kensington Palace and Highgrove House. The length of Diana's marriage to Prince Charles was identical to that of her parents, 15 years. After her divorce in August 1996, Diana intensified her charity work, focusing on HIV/AIDS awareness, landmine clearance, and homelessness. She stepped down from her official royal patronages, but continued as patron or president of several organizations, including the Royal Marsden Hospital and Centrepoint. Her personal life attracted intense media scrutiny. In late 1996, she was romantically linked to Dr. Hasnat Khan, a British Pakistani heart surgeon. Their relationship reportedly lasted around a year, but ended in mid-1997, largely due to Khan's discomfort with the relentless press attention. Diana described him as the love of her life in later interviews. In the summer of 1997, Diana began dating Dodi Fayed, son of Egyptian billionaire Mohammed Al-Fayed. The relationship quickly became tabloid fodder after they were photographed vacationing together on a yacht in the Mediterranean. Their time together was highly publicized, with paparazzi following them closely as their romance developed. On August 30th, 1997, Diana and Fayed left the Ritz Hotel in Paris shortly after midnight. Their car, driven by Henri Paul, the hotel's acting head of security, entered the Pont de l'Alma tunnel at high speed while being pursued by paparazzi. At 12:23 a.m. on August 31st, the car crashed into the 13th pillar of the tunnel. Dodi Fayed and Henri Paul died at the scene. Diana was taken to the Pitié-Salpêtrière Hospital, where she was pronounced dead at 4 a.m. from internal injuries. Investigations found that Henri Paul had been intoxicated and driving at high speed. The absence of seat belts for all occupants was noted as a contributing factor to the fatalities. Diana's death prompted an unprecedented public outpouring of grief. Her funeral on September 6, 1997, at Westminster Abbey, was attended by 2,000 guests and watched by an estimated 2.5 billion people worldwide. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to explore my most recommended books on Lady Diana, linked in the description below, and let me know in the comments which fact surprised you the most, or is there one you think I should have included? If you'd like to support the channel, you'll find links to our channel membership options and newsletter in the description. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who loves history and elegance. Until next time.